Hi, this is Danielle and
Kyra.
And you're listening to Scrunchyfi, a show by mamas for mamas. Here we cover all the creative ways to make money, save money, and invest to reach financial freedom and live the life you want. So welcome everyone to our very first episode of Scrunchyfi. We are two mamas here just talking about everything to do with finance, living life, raising kids, and moving toward financial independence. So Kyra, I would just love to have you introduce yourself to everyone. Like, let us know what you're about, like who you are, where you live.
Hey, mamas. So I'm Kyra. I'm living in Southwest Florida. It is sunny all year long, although today I did put on a little sweater. It's getting a little chilly. But when it's like 90, 100, 79 feels a little chilly. So I am living in a house hack duplex, and we'll talk about that a little later. So I live in one side, I rent out the other side. Recently went back to work, not necessarily the same place, but yeah, I took a long maternity leave. My husband works part-time, kind of like one day a week at a W-2 job, and he manages our 3 Airbnb rentals from our house. Our rentals are next door, pretty much, so it's really easy. It's actually like one of our reasons how and why we've been able to keep our kids at home. So I have 2 little ones. The oldest is 5, and the youngest is a year and a half. And they haven't been in daycare. We are, pretty much caring for them in our house. Where I'm working right now, I'm able to do like remote. So that's like probably like a 50-50, a hybrid remote. So 50-50 at home and in office. So I'm able to like be here, help, support, when I can. And he's able to manage the Airbnbs and still care for the children. And sometimes he takes the kids with him because we're like self-cleaning the unit. So he'll take the kids with him, and they're like, we're trying to get them to clean, especially my oldest daughter, get her on that payroll. Not child labor. We're gonna pay her.
Yeah, you can put that in a Roth IRA.
Right?
Yeah, it's earned income.
Next Gen 5.
There you go.
So yeah, we're doing all that. I kind of feel like I'm scrunchy. I'm not like 100% crunchy, and I'm not 100% silky. I cloth diapered my first child, and then once we had 4 houses to do laundry, I was like, I can't cloth diaper anymore. So we've got disposables on the second one. I had 2 home births, but if I ended up in the hospital, that's where I need to be. So like I need that convenience for, as a mom and trying to get through the day. I got the technology, I use all that stuff. So I'm not like, unplugged. I'm plugged in and yet unplugged when I need to be. So Danielle, tell all of us about you.
So I am a mom. I have 2 little kids, very similar in age to you. I have a 4-year-old, almost 5-year-old daughter, and then my other daughter is about 1.5. We live in Northern California, so if you just take the cost of living of Florida and times it by like 10, this is where we are. And I'm from here, and it's beautiful, but like I said, extremely expensive. I work in mental health. I am a social worker. I have a Master of Social Work degree, so definitely not high roller. I'm not in the tech industry. So again, mismatch between my income and where I live. I live with my partner. He's from Rwanda, and he also works. So we both work full time. Both kids are not in daycare or any type of school. We consider ourselves homeschoolers. My oldest daughter goes one day a week to like this farm school, and charter funds pay for it. That's something I can cover at a certain point. And where we live, we actually live pretty tiny. We live in a 677 square foot condo that I bought when I was 23, and it's a below market rate condo. So I will definitely have some episodes covering what that means, what the lottery is like. I actually got it without a lottery. I'll talk about that. So our mortgage and stuff is really low, and that's what allows us to stay here. But we don't get to house hack like Kyra does. So there's a little bit of missed opportunity there. Yeah, so we both are working, managing kids. So life is pretty chaotic because I not only have a W-2 job, but I also have a private practice that I run while watching the kids full time. I think I calculated it. I watch them like during the week, like 60 hours, and he watches them like 35. So yeah, so I'm just a mom. I definitely consider myself scrunchy. I had one hospital birth, one home birth. I vacillate between conventional versus alternative things in every realm. I am an avid cloth diaperer. My partner's not so into it, but 5 years, and so we're almost done. So we're just gonna take it to the finish line, I think. But yeah, that's us.
Awesome. Awesome. And we need to tell our listeners how we met because
We do.
uh, we have only kind of recently met. And yet
It's true.
we're starting on this journey of Scrunchyfi. We found ourselves having so much in common. Do you wanna kick
Yeah.
it off? Okay.
Well, it's funny because so we were not scheduled. So we met near Sedona in Cottonwood. I think that's so. I think
Hmm.
Cottonwood's a little bit cheaper. So already that should have been a sign. We were like right outside of Sedona, but just couldn't seem to want to pay the Sedona prices. Um, so we're both in tiny houses with our families, both on road trips. Neither of us wanted to take planes and rent cars. Um, and so what was funny is I wasn't even scheduled to stay there. I think at the last minute, I canceled something and I booked that one. I remember thinking this is like the most expensive one I'm booking, and like it's so
Wow.
funny. So then I end up meeting this person that's into the fire movement at like the most expensive place I stayed. Like
Oh my
everywhere else,
gosh.
because we did a 3 week road trip. I think yours, you can explain to everyone, but I think yours was 4. But we did a 3 week road trip from California, like all the way to like the border of Texas, and then like all the way back. And everywhere we stayed was like RVs. And so this was like the real, like one of the only like tiny houses that we stayed in, and it was like the most expensive one. So I just thought that was kind of like ironic that like I meet this like frugal, crunchy mama at like the most expensive place I went. But
That's
yeah,
our
so we went
Silky.
there. Yeah, that's our Silky coming out, and also like convenience and with kids. Like I always lean more on like almost too frugal, and so this is like that was like the good medium, right? Like it's like 100 and something dollars, but to me like that's like anything over $100, I'm like that's extravagant. But anyway, so we met, both of us on road trips, both of us from like opposite sides of the country, somehow near Sedona in the kind of cheaper town next to Sedona with our kids that are like almost exactly the same age, like just lots of things in common. And then when we both realized like I think our partners like talk to each other, and that's how like we even like decided to hang out. And then our daughters are really similar and they started running around together. And then we went on a hike, and you mentioned you were living in a duplex and renting out the other side. And like I always assumed people don't know about the fire movement. I never, so I was like, I was like, oh, that sounds like house hacking. And then you knew what
Yeah.
house hacking was, and I was like, well, you know a little bit about this. And then you know all the podcasts I was listening to. I was like, what? Like I never met anybody like that knew all the stuff that I'm listening to as far as finance stuff. So I thought that was so cool.
Well, the same with me. I've never met anyone else that knew about the fire movement. I told one other Scrunchy Mama about the fire movement, and she went full on board. And hopefully, we'll interview her in a later date. But yeah, I remember you're like, "Hey, what kind of podcast do you listen to?" And I'm like, "Oh, like personal finance. That's kind of boring, right?" And you're like, "Wait a minute, I'm right there with you. You're talking about." Mr. Money Mustache. We were talking about Early Retirement Extreme, Dale Collins, Choose Fi, yeah, all of it. So that was amazing, really. We didn't really like get into too in depth. I mean, we were like in this serene basking on red rocks next to like this beautiful water stream. The kids were having so much time. I
Aw,
remember like the only reason why we left there was because we didn't have any more food.
I know.
So yeah, I think we could have stayed there all day.
Yeah,
Um,
agreed.
yeah, so I was on a road trip. We were tripping it for a month, and I had so much anxiety because my son I mean, he likes the car now, but actually only up until that point, like he hated to be in the car, like screamed. And I was like, this is a worst nightmare. So we actually like took off at night, drove the majority of the time was at night, which wasn't really much better. He just woke up every 2 hours, and that's what he did for his first year of life, anyways. Um, but yeah, we were traveling. We went through Sedona and then we went up to the Rocky Mountains. And I was like, when I get back, I need to message this mama. We need to exchange some information because, you know, I, mamas are not really, they're too busy. Like, I get it, like, way too busy to be managing your finances and let alone like researching. And trying to get it all right. We're just like trying to make it through the day. So I thought that was like amazing that we kind of connected with that and uh, sharing information together was, has probably like leap bounded, at least, for me, like why I'm not gonna buy I bonds. You know what an I bond is. So yeah, I just feel like, when it's just you researching and learning information, it'll take you. I mean, it took me, I think, 7 years learning about fire. But when you've, got someone else who's interested, then you can, everything that they've learned, they share with you, and you've added whatever their 7 years plus your 7 years, and now you have 14 years of experience.
That's very true. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what was pretty cool was my husband, I mean, obviously he loves me and tolerates all of the numbers and he's like, whatever you say we need to do, I'll do it. Okay. I don't need to like don't explain it. So having somebody else who's interested in and being able to talk and chat about it is really cool. So
Yeah.
um do you want to like share a little bit of, or I can share first, about our fire, like about my fire journey? I feel like our listeners probably would be interested to hear that.
Yeah, I thought we
Um,
could even like define it for them because people are probably listening to us and
mm,
they're like, what are they talking about when they're talking about financial freedom? What does that mean? Like being independently wealthy or something, or like getting an inheritance or stealing money in a way that no one can figure out.
yeah,
But
let's define it because, I'm saying fire and then we're saying fi. So
yeah,
it's like, well, what does all that mean together?
yeah, and then financial freedom, that's like another one. So we're talking about
Hmm.
three things, which are all, I think they're all related, although they're all different, right? Like, so the fire movement, I have no idea when it started. Like, I've been listening to podcasts where they're like talking about guys in like the 1800s that were writing about like not retiring early per se, but like financial freedom. So fire as a movement, maybe it was born 15 years ago, something like that. It's just financial independence, retire early, and at its core, it's having investments or passive income enough to cover your expenses or really cover the life that you want to live. So then there's all these like things of like fat fire being like covering a very extravagant life, or lean fire being like covering just the basics, or barista fire where like your passive income covers you up to a point, but you still need to like work somewhere to make a little bit of money or have health insurance, especially in the United States. That's like a big issue. So that's a movement. I think you and I probably both identify as like being like pretty enthusiastic members of that movement, self-proclaimed members of that movement. And then I think the financial independence, I say that a lot because honestly, I don't think I want to retire early. I want the option to retire early, but that's not something that drives me. Because I like my career and I'm always doing stuff. I just know my personality. Like I would just never tolerate it. So FI resonates like more with me, but I still like the retire early part because I want that as an option. Like, what if I do get tired? So financial independence is just the part of having the passive income covering your expenses. And passive income literally means money you don't have to work for. So it comes from investments, can come from real estate, etc. It's money where you don't have to get up and really do much for. So that's how I define it anyway. So like when my stocks go up, when I get dividends, that's passive income because I'm literally doing nothing. It's the businesses making profits that are kind of trickling down to me. And financial freedom, I think, is just like a broader kind of like just the freedom to be able to do things where you don't have to work for it in a sense, or you have money to cover. So in a nutshell, my fire journey started, I think, very young. I watched my parents make a lot of mistakes. So I was very motivated to kind of figure out my finances really young. I wanted to own a home. I thought that was like really important. I wanted, once I learned about saving, I wanted to save all the time because I just watched my parents and my dad, especially, who was really the person working a lot and the one who made money, just lose all their money and like not know what to do and make just these really weird choices that in hindsight, a lot of people make, but just don't really generate the financial freedom that I was seeking, like buying new cars, buying expensive iPhones and stuff like that. I would see, well, they're on these payment plans and now they can't go on vacations. And I'm like, well, that doesn't look like freedom to me. So that just, lots of Googling. When I had a job that was pretty relaxed, I Googled and just kind of got on the fire journey. And I just didn't look back. I just trusted it and just threw my whatever extra money I made. The more my salaries went up, which, like I said, I'm a social worker, so not exponentially, let me say, unfortunately for myself. But still, like even on that salary, even living in an expensive area, making way below the average of my area, I've been able to do this. So I'm a huge believer that investing consistently, being smart with your money, being smart with your like really big ticket items, like shows results. So that's really been my journey. So now I've been on it. I think, probably once I bought this place when I was about 23, that's about the time that I was starting to kind of learn about finances. And then fire, like as an actual movement, probably like 6 or 7 years ago is when I like learned about it and was like all in.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Was there any like action that you took, like one, two, three, to get you rolling really quickly?
Mm-hmm. Vanguard.com, create an account, sign up my bank account and recurring investments to a Roth IRA. Roth IRA is the absolute first number one thing I did, unless you count purchasing my home. But I don't really see my home as an investment. It's more just like a rent control to keep my kind of cost of living low. And it's been very effective to do that. So it has really helped a lot, but it hasn't really generated me much money. But yeah. And for, okay, so you do the right, you go do the Roth IRA, or if you don't qualify, just regular brokerage, which is a taxable account. And then if you're employed, going into the 401k and taking that percentage point that might be zero and raising it up. And that, because all of my money is in stocks, so right, or index funds. So that's been my avenue, and I know yours is a little bit different, but that's.
And do you have a 401k? Does a social worker? Yeah.
So now that I work for a private company, I do, but in the past I had a 457B, which is a much sweeter deal.
Okay.
and a pension, and I did
Wow.
vest, so I will have a little pension when I retire. From
Awesome.
working for the government. I worked for the government for 7 years, so I have that.
So my fire journey started with um, asking other people, people that were older than I was, like, how do I retire normally? Like, what are the things I should be doing? I was 28 at the time, and I just felt like, needed some next steps. I actually probably did a lot more before that, but from my perspective, it was just like smart money moves. But at that time, at like 28, I was like, okay, I need something more. What should I do? Everyone was telling me, well, just, put money in the 401k. And I was like, okay, I did that. Now what? And I was like using the calculators on the 401k where I had it, and they were like, you need this much money to retire. And I'm like, that number doesn't even make sense to me. And I think now the reason why it didn't make sense was because I didn't know what my expenses were. So it was like, how did it come up with I need that much money? How much money am I spending? But I didn't really put it all together. So I would ask some of my peers what were they doing? Just, smart money moves. And they were kind of like, look, I have student loan debt. I'm paying off a wedding. Like, I just had a kid. I've got nothing for you. So again, I kind of started searching online as well, and came up with like early retirement extreme article on Forbes, actually, like
Oh, wow.
software, or I think he's like a rocket science or um,
Yeah,
something.
I think he was.
I
Yeah.
think he's a rocket scientist.
I mean, he doesn't work anymore. I think he
Right.
just gardens.
So he retired at like 30 or something. And I was just like, that's insane. Like, click on that link. And then that
Yeah.
led me down the rabbit hole of like Mr. Money Mustache and like JL Collins. And this was in 2015. Me and my then boyfriend, now husband, we had made plans to quit our jobs and to travel for a year. And I told him about this, like, hey, guess what? You can retire early kind of thing. And he was like, wait, should we be quitting our jobs? Maybe we should just be focusing on that. And I was like shocked that he even said that, because I mean, sometimes you really need to like pull your partner in on an idea like this. So we both decided that we should just quit our jobs and travel,
Yeah.
because we're, young, and, you know, so we did that. And I think that was like excellent because, one, what do you do with all this freedom and time, which is what financial independence kind of allows, it provides space for. So that gave us the ability to like learn what that feels like. I had like a little black book, and I wrote down all my expenses while we were traveling.
Oh my
So that
goodness.
helped me learn how to start tracking. And I was like handwriting
Oh,
it. Why not? I didn't have anything else to do. And then I was able to listen to all these podcasts while we were traveling. So I really learned a lot within that year. So when we came back, I didn't have a job. We didn't have a job. We didn't have a place to live. We had two cars. One car ended up in a crash. So then we just had one, and I was pregnant. So I was like, okay, well, I don't really see like how we're going to be able to like pursue fire. So, but it was like, let's just start where we can. That was like, what are our expenses? Start tracking, start reducing what we can. We came up with the idea of house hacking. I heard that on Bigger Pockets.
yeah.
They interviewed this guy, and I talked to my husband. I said, this is something we can do. I don't know how to be a landlord, but who cares? So fast forward, house hacked. I still live there. I bought another duplex and flipped those to Airbnb. As far as like action plan, I've been maxing out 401k. I actually have been taking advantage of traditional IRA to get some tax deductions. Um, Still like controlling expenses. I think that's about it. I mean, that's where we are today. So
Yeah.
pretty
In a
awesome.
nutshell. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully people can relate to some of that because I don't think either one of us started off with, all the knowledge and people, parents walking us through it or super duper high incomes or anything like that.
Yeah. And like where we're at today, I mean, we've been on this journey for a while. And I think, we have two kids. We do have divided time. We work full time.
Yeah.
So like our financial freedom path, I'm not 30, I'm not going to retire in my 30s. But that financial freedom has really bought a lot of other lifestyle changes, like being able to stay
Yeah.
home with our kids. So
That's right.
it's
Yeah.
like that
Sure.
it's all on the stepping stones towards maybe alternative lifestyle, working part-time, working very minimal hours. If you have enjoyed the show, please share with another Scrunchy Mama and hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. For show notes, resources, and links to our other video shorts, check out our website, scrunchyfi.com.